Welcome back. I'm going to show you how to clean up your work after you're done soldering. This metal has sat in the pickle for about 2 hours, which is more than enough time, and I've taken it out, I've rinsed it off, washed it off, and I've dried it. And at this point, I'm ready to get started. Let's take a look. Look at these beauties, fresh from the pickle, ready to be cleaned up. Now, we're going to use the same methods that we've used to clean up other metal. So primarily we start with sanding. We go 300, 400, 600. But as you can imagine, our sanding stick isn't going to get inside and sand the spaces inside this leaf. It will get the top of this, it will get the back of this, it'll get the top of my overlay, it'll get the back of my piece and my edges, but it won't get down into the bits and pieces. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my 300 sanding stick, and I'm going to clean up everything that I can with the sanding stick first. When I'm done with that, I'm going to come back and show you how to get into those trickier areas. Our goal in cleaning up our solder work is to get rid of all of the firescale or all of this kind of speckled, dirty looking surface that we see, and to get rid of any solder that is visible. So I can see solder around the edges of a lot of my work, which is unfortunate because that's more work to clean up. So you know you're done when 1, you've reached 600 on your sandpaper, 2, you don't see any discoloration to the metal, and 3, you can't see any. I've gone in and I've sanded to 300 the overlay and the backs of all my pieces. So you can see they're in a much better state. There's a few things I'd like to point out. Firescale on brass looks like this pink area here. It's kind of, there's a little bit of the copper that's in the brass rises up to the surface. So I'm not quite done with the back of this bracelet yet because I can still see that copper in the brass, that kind of pink tone in there. I also have this one little spot of solder on the back. There was a piece of solder on my soldering block. I didn't see it and it melted onto the back of my piece and I have to sand through that. So that's something to think about. The other thing that I would do before I start working too hard on sanding my backgrounds, on this piece I need to go in and saw around that moon to even that up and make sure that's set to go. And on this piece there's a lot of unevenness around my edges. I want to even that up first, either with sawing or filing or a combination thereof. So I really want to make sure my edges are good, they're filed if they needed filing, and then I'm going to finish sanding. All right, to sand those tough places, the first thing you're going to do is use your sanding stick to get as many places as you can. And if you look here, really, that sanding stick's going to reach into a lot of spaces on this piece. I'm using the skinny edge of it, and I can really get in there. Where I can't reach with my sanding stick, what I'm going to do is pull off a section of that sandpaper, and I'm going to use that in a couple different ways to get into spaces I can't otherwise reach. So route number 1, this is probably my favorite, is I take it and I fold it into maybe sections of 4. And with that, I can get in, I can use that edge and get right into my edges and crevices, especially around my overlays. And I just keep going around all my pieces like that with my 300 until it's clean and I don't see any soldering. Route number 2, if you don't like that one, is you can take that same little strip of paper and you can just wrap it around, kind of loop it around a pencil, just a regular old wooden pencil. Use the tip of it, so you got a nice little point there, and you can do the same thing here and really dig in. You can push a little harder this way. You just got to remember to every once in a while change the part of the sandpaper that's pointing down because you will wear out that one little spot pretty quick. Those are both really good ways to get into little cracks and crevices. The next route that you could take is to change your file into a little mini sanding stick, but be careful with this one because if you file through the sandpaper, you're going to gouge your metal. So if you go this route, really, watch what you're doing. So I'm just basically going to take my scrap of sandpaper, wind it around my piece, my file, even tape it if I want to, but what this does is make a little mini sanding stick that I can go in and get some larger areas with as well. So to get into those spaces, you can fold and use the side of your sandpaper with your finger. You might want to tape your finger if you do this. It helps not to sand. Sometimes I'll accidentally sand off my fingernail, not off, but I'll sand it down low. And so just taping, putting a little bit of masking tape around your fingertip can kind of help avoid that kind of thing. Or you fold it again and you use the edge to get in around your work, or wrap it around a pencil tip, or wrap around a file. Whatever you do, it's going to take some time to clean up that background. So what I tend to do when I'm doing a portion of work like this is I put on a podcast or a TV show I like, and I kind of sit back and I sand while I watch that. And again, you're going to do the whole thing like this with 300, then 400, then 600. Really important that you take your time with the 400 and 600 once you get rid of all the dirt with the 300 to get rid of the marks from the 300 with the 400 and 600. Otherwise, when you polish it, you're going to start to see the flow of the sanding line. So again, it's going to take you some time. So sit back, turn on something you enjoy watching or listening to, and just kind of get after it, relax, work through it one thing at a time. It takes a while to finish sanding a soldered piece. Make sure you spend a lot of time on it. Make sure you spend enough time with each sandpaper. Don't skimp on that 400 and don't skimp on that 600. Take all the time you need to make sure you've done a really good job. Once you're done sanding, you're ready for whatever your next step is. That could be etching, or it could be going straight to forming your bracelet and then finishing with a polish. Take your time, go slow, and you'll have a piece that you're incredibly proud of in the end.